I always thought I had a loving family, but everything changed one late afternoon when the phone rang. I was in the middle of balancing my small budget at the kitchen table, the sunlight filtering through the curtains and casting stripes across the notepad filled with numbers. I needed every cent I could scrape together for rent and for the groceries that would barely last the week. The crackling static on the other end of the line snapped me from my calculations and filled me with a sharp sense of dread. "Is this Amelia Carter?" A deep, stern voice questioned, jolting me to attention. "Yes, this is she," I replied, my heart racing as I could feel an energy shift in the room. Something about the way he spoke sent a chill down my spine. "I'm calling regarding your father's outstanding debts. We have a matter to discuss," the voice continued, casually dropping a bomb that exploded in my mind. I leaned back in my chair, my heart pounding harder. "Debts? What kind of debts?" "Over $50,000, the man stated flatly. "He has several accounts in default, and our company is responsible for collecting on these debts. He has not been forthcoming with any payments." My mind raced as I tried to comprehend the weight of his words. $50,000, my father? This can't be right. My father has always been responsible. There must be some mistake. I could feel panic rising inside me, threatening to spill over. "No mistake, Miss Carter. Our records indicate he has been neglecting his payments. If you would like, I can provide you with the documents." I shook my head, even though he could not see me. "No, that won't be necessary. I will speak to him directly." My voice wavered slightly, the confidence I once felt faltering as I set the phone down heavily, my thoughts a cacophony. It was impossible to comprehend. My father, the man who always seemed to have everything under control, had hidden such a staggering sum of debt from us. The minutes ticked by agonizingly slowly as I replayed the conversation in my head like it was a bad movie. I could not pause. I could not understand how he could keep something so massive a secret. Living in Aspenvale had always felt like living inside a warm bubble where nothing could penetrate the illusion of our suburban bliss. But then I thought about my life, the scrimping and saving, the long hours at work, the constant hustle to make ends meet while my entire family had been living in luxury behind my back. My mind flashed back to the last family vacation they took, Hawaii. I had been stuck at home, working a double shift to cover my bills while they sent me photos of sunsets over the ocean from their fancy hotel. I felt bile rise in my throat as I remembered my siblings laughing in a crystal-clear pool while I was drowning in financial stress. I felt a cold, bitter resentment rise within me. I grabbed my phone once more, so torn between anger and confusion. "What do you all know?" I muttered to myself as I scrolled through my contacts. My siblings' names felt like a betrayal on my tongue. Did they even care? Did they even know? I thought about how close we'd always seemed when we were growing up, sharing secrets and watching each other's backs. Now it felt like I had been left in the dark, standing alone on the shores of an infinite sea of lies. Taking a deep breath, I decided to take control. I needed more information. I started digging through old financial documents from our filing cabinet in the hallway. As I rifled through years of receipts, bank statements, and the occasional heartfelt birthday card, the sense of dread turned into anger tinged with determination. I scanned through document after document, each one becoming more revealing than the last. My pulse quickened as I realized that this wasn't just a little spending issue. My father had crafted an elaborate web of deceit so tight that it ensnared not just him but my entire family. "Why didn't you tell me?" I blurted into the empty kitchen, the chair creaking under the weight of my despair. I felt the room grow colder, the reality of my father's actions swirling like a storm around me. Suddenly I heard a voice behind me. "What's going on?" It was my younger brother, his brow furrowing in confusion as he stepped into the kitchen, a snack in hand. "What do you know about Dad's debts?" I shot back, the accusation rolling off my lips like poison. He blinked, visibly taken aback by my tone. "What are you talking about?" I couldn't stand the innocent look on his face. The disbelief in his eyes felt like a knife twisting in my gut. "Don't play stupid with me. I just got off the phone with a creditor. $50,000 gone. How could you just let him lie to all of us?" My brother's expression shifted from confusion to realization and finally to guilt. He glanced away, biting his lower lip. I didn't know the numbers were that bad. Did you even care?" I shouted, throwing my hands up in frustration. "Did you just choose to ignore it while you all went on vacations and left me to struggle?" "Amelia, it's not like that," he protested. "We all wanted to help, but Dad said he had it under control. We trusted him." "Trusted him?" My voice trembled with anger. "You mean turned a blind eye? How can you stand there and act like everything is okay?" "I didn't," he began, but the words fell flat, his face crumbling. "What do you get out of this?" I pursued, anger boiling over. "Do you enjoy living a lie?" He shook his head, the shame palpable in the air. "I didn't think it was that serious. I wasn't involved in the finances." My stomach twisted, disgust coursing through me. And neither was I, but now I'm stuck in this mess. My mind raced, light flooding the dark corners of deceit. This is our future we're talking about, $50,000 in debts. What kind of future can we hope to have when Dad has squandered everything? Does anyone even care? It's not just him, my brother finally spoke, his voice small and pained. We all knew something was off, but I thought it was just a rough patch. Rough patch, I scoffed, the bitter taste of betrayal heavy on my tongue. This is a complete unraveling of our family. We are living in a lie. We fell into an uncomfortable silence, the weight of the truth settling thickly between us, pressing down like a lead weight. I could hear my brother's breathing waver, and I could feel the hot tears prick at the back of my eyes. I thought we were a family, I said quietly, the words strangled as they escaped me. I didn't know we were just a facade for my father's greed. How did I not see this coming? My brother finally met my gaze, his eyes brimming with guilt. I'm sorry you had to find out this way, but I swear we will figure this out together. I'll talk to Dad, we can confront him, he suggested. Confront him? The sarcasm dripped from my voice. What do you think he'll say? Oh, my bad, and we'll just forget it. I don't know, he admitted, rubbing the back of his neck nervously. But we have to do something. Why should I even believe you? You all let me struggle while you lived in luxury. I cannot go back to that kind of ignorance. Not anymore. I stepped back, feeling the weight of everything crashing around me. I had to know the truth. I had to confront my father and make him understand the damage that his actions had caused, not just with the debts but with the trust he had shattered. My anger turned into determination, and the thought alone made me feel powerful. I would no longer be the one left behind. I would not let their choices trap me in their web of lies. That day marked the beginning of something dark, something that would change everything. The bubble of our collective illusion was about to burst, and I would not stand by idly. I would find out everything, the debts, the lies, and how my siblings truly felt about this betrayal. I held on tightly to the knowledge that revenge would become my weapon, and I would not let them continue feasting while I starved. The time for confrontation was coming, and it was going to shake the very foundation of what we once called family every day. I felt more trapped as I uncovered deliberate lies and deceit. It was as if the walls were closing in on me, the air heavy with the scent of betrayal that clung to my skin like a second layer. Each time I confronted my siblings, pleading for a taste of honesty or at least an acknowledgement of the reality, they turned cold and dismissive. Each glance became a blade, twisting further into the already aching core of my heart. They directed the blame back to me, painting me as the villain simply for wanting transparency in a world of shadows. As I stood at the threshold of yet another family gathering, the door creaked open, releasing a wave of laughter and the rich aroma of roasted meats. The decorations twinkled with cheerful lights, and I could see the spread of food on the long table, steaming vegetables, succulent roast beef, and a decadent chocolate cake that seemed to be mocking me as the pinnacle of joy I could not partake in. My stomach growled, a reminder that hunger was a physical and emotional ache, but I didn't want to eat. I wanted to scream. Underneath their laughter, I could hear the condescending snickers directed at me, feel the weight of their insincerity pressing down as I crossed the threshold. Hey, look who finally showed up, one of my siblings called out, a smirk playing at the corners of her mouth. The others turned, and for a brief moment I could see their faces, painted with joy and a hint of expectation. They were waiting for my reaction, expecting me to fall in line with their charade of bliss. You weren't going to bail on us, were you? No, I replied, forcing a tight-lipped smile, just took a moment to gather myself. Gather yourself, you sure you are not just practicing your sulking? Another sibling chimed, and the muffled laughter around the room broke through me like glass shattering underfoot. I wanted to scream that it wasn't sulking, it was survival. Come on, lighten up. I stepped further inside the house. The delightful chaos of children darting between adults, the clinking of glasses, and uproarious conversations filled the air. It felt like an energy that enveloped everyone but me. I felt like a dark cloud in a bright sky while they enjoyed the sunshine. I stood in the shadows looking in. A scoff escaped me. They didn't know the dark secret I was poised to unleash, one that I held like a fierce flame hidden within my chest. How did we end up here? I wondered, scanning the room, my heart heavy. They were all so blissfully uninformed of their own complicity, living comfortably in their lies while I was left exposed, the sole bearer of truth. I could hear snippets of their conversation, lighthearted discussions about vacations, promotions, and dreams that felt so out of reach for me. Who would care to listen to me speaking about my struggles when they were busy enjoying their lives? Did you hear about the promotion at work? One of them shouted amidst the clamor, drawing in the attention of others. I finally made it to manager. Cheers erupted around them as if a championship had just been declared. I felt the heat of my anger boiling within, a volcano waiting to erupt, and that insistent voice inside my head whispered harshly, why should they celebrate when they have never understood the sacrifices behind my dreams? I didn't realize management was meant for those who take shortcuts. I muttered under my breath, but the words went unnoticed, swallowed by the noise around me. I caught the eye of another sibling, and in that fleeting moment I shared the longing within me, a desperate plea for recognition. But he merely shrugged, focusing back on his conversation as if I didn't exist. Amelia, a sharp voice cut through. It was my mother, her expression warm, yet I could hear the undertone that suggested I should just play nice and pretend. Come over and join us. We were just talking about the family trip to the coast next summer. She beckoned with her hand, and I felt the weight of expectation thrumming beneath the surface. Mom, oh, come on, it's going to be amazing. Yeah, another sibling interjected, and maybe this time you could even stop being the only one not going. It would be fun. There it was again, the subtle undermining, the message beneath the words. They painted me as the misfit. I felt a sudden swell of rejection. My dreams were colorful paintings fading in a gallery, unnoticed and unappreciated. You all know how I feel about that, I replied, my voice steady though my fists clenched tight at my sides. Don't be such a downer, Amelia, it is just a trip, one said while pouring himself a drink as if that would dilute the harshness of their reality. Enjoyments are meant to be enjoyed, not debated. The joy and laughter continued, voices elevated in amusement, yet there I was, the silence around me almost deafening. I felt like the last leaf on a nearly stripped tree, holding out against winter. They didn't see the years I spent working to pursue my dreams, the times I sacrificed joy so they could thrive. It's not just a trip. Some of us are working hard and can barely keep our heads above water, I shot back, though I knew it wouldn't matter. Amelia, my mother said, irritation creeping into her voice, this is not the time. A shiver ran through me, a palpable rejection. With each heartbeat, the loneliness pressed deeper still. In that moment, the air around me seemed to shift, sparks of anger igniting into rage. I could feel the tremors of betrayal running through my veins, a tide mounting against the shore of my patience. They saw me as the villain simply for wanting the truth. Nothing had prepared me for having to weather this storm alone, yet here I was, surrounded by my own flesh and blood, devoid of any support. As the evening wore on, conversations continued to swirl around me like a turbulent ocean, each wave crashing against my resolve. I decided to retreat to the kitchen where I could at least pretend to be busy. Hey, what are you doing? A sibling asked, popping his head in as I rinsed a plate under the water. Just catching my breath, I confessed, unable to muster the energy to fake that cheerful facade any longer. Wow, really? It's not like you to miss out on the fun. It is kind of hard to enjoy when you feel so out of place, I muttered, half hoping he would hear me. He regarded me with a mix of surprise and confusion. Out of place? Come on, sister, you are just being dramatic, he said dismissively. A lump lodged itself in my throat. Dramatic? I wanted nothing more than to scream that this wasn't drama. It was reality with thorns digging deep. I felt frustration boiling over. Why do you all insist on downplaying my feelings? So I'm supposed to just sit and smile while you throw a pity party around me? My voice rose, surprising even me. The outburst startled him and his eyes widened slightly. You know that is not what we mean, he replied, lowering his voice, clearly uncomfortable. We have each other's back, we are family. Is that what family looks like? I glared, the heaviness of my words wrapping tightly around us. Family who will laugh at my plight rather than lend an ear. Family who will lie to protect themselves rather than support each other. The words spilled out, raw and piercing. I felt electricity fizzling in the air, a charge of difficult truth. Amelia, you are being unreasonable, he insisted, but there was a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes now. I'm not the unreasonable one. This charade is toxic, and you all seem perfectly content with keeping it alive. With that, I stormed out of the kitchen, the tension hanging like a thick fog. I rejoined the party only to find that laughter had resumed as if I had never existed. They were oblivious, lost in their world of carefree satisfaction while I spiraled deeper into the darkness of my thoughts. The crushing loneliness wrapped around me like an iron cloak as I realized that I had no allies in this twisted game. All my efforts to reach out, to claw my way into a semblance of solidarity, had been met with rejection. Every time I thought about my struggles or my failures, the overwhelming betrayal grew sharper. It clawed at my sanity, the whispers echoing, do they even care? Do they see you? I wanted to shake them all awake, to show them the truth hidden behind my eyes. It felt like a war against my own blood, and I was losing ground, sinking deeper into a pit of despair. I stepped outside, needing the cool air to refresh the storm swirling inside my head. The stars twinkled above like eyes watching me closely, judgmental and indifferent. I leaned against the railing on the porch, taking a deep breath as the chilly air surrounded me, calming the fire within for just a moment. I thought back to my dreams and the endless effort I had poured into every inch of my ambition. The bitterness turned to resolve, the pain shaping into a weapon in my mind. They didn't know it yet, nor would they see it coming, but I was about to reclaim my narrative. I would become the author of my own revenge, writing a story they would not forget easily. As my siblings continued to laugh inside, blissfully unaware of the tempest I was conjuring, a sinister smile crept onto my lips. This would not end in defeat, not while I had breath left in my lungs. I had nothing to lose anymore, only the truth to gain. The room was alive with laughter, the kind that rises and swells, mixing with the smell of roasted chicken and mashed potatoes, wafting through the air like a warm embrace. Light danced from the chandelier above, casting a golden glow over my parents and my younger siblings. They were all gathered around the beautifully set dining table, sharing stories that made their faces light up, eyes twinkling as they recalled happier times. I was seated at the end, a mere spectator to their revelry, feeling like a ghost tethered to a world I no longer recognized. Their joy was a fabric woven so tight that I seemed to slip through the many threads, rendered completely invisible amidst their laughter. Heart pounding, I could hear the clattering of forks against plates, punctuating their conversations with a familiarity that left me feeling hollow. Remember that time Dad almost set the kitchen on fire trying to make breakfast? One of my siblings chimed, laughter spilling over like warm syrup. You were so scared, Dad. I thought you were going to run out the back door. My father's laughter boomed and I forced a smile, the muscles in my face aching with the effort. Let's not revisit that, shall we? He said, wiping a tear of mirth from his eye. My mother's melodic laughter chimed in, ringing in stark contrast to the dull ache festering inside of me. I squeezed my utensils tightly, my knuckles white against the polished surface of the table, a simmering rage igniting in my core. In that moment, a sudden clarity washed over me. It was as though the laughter itself had summoned a dark shadow that crept out from the depths of my heart. I had been trying to mask my anger, stuffing it down like food that you know you should not eat, but it was finally time to let it escape. I inhaled deeply, tasting the buttery aroma of the food, but it churned uncomfortably in my stomach, as greedy and insatiable as the lies spread across the table. Memories of late-night bills shoved under a pillow and frantic searches for spare change surged to the forefront of my mind. Why should I remain silent while they indulged in their fantasies of togetherness, blind to the chaos they had orchestrated behind closed doors? Summoning all my courage, I pushed my chair back with a screech that silenced the table. Everyone turned. Forks clattered down as they fixed their eyes on me, expressions shifting from mirth to confusion then concern. I could feel the intensity building, a hot wave of emotion rushing up my throat like a storm waiting to break. I can't do this anymore, I shouted, the words bursting forth before any part of me stood a chance to weigh the consequences. What are you talking about, Amelia? My mother's tone held confusion laced with irritation, as if I were interrupting a well-rehearsed play. No, you are going to listen. The rush of adrenaline fueled my boldness as I felt the room's energy shift. My heart raced, pounding in my chest like a drum echoing through the silence that swallowed the air. You think everything is fine, don't you? You laugh and tell stories while I struggle to make ends meet. You even know that I have to choose between keeping the lights on or buying groceries, or that you have put us all in debt because of your reckless spending. The disbelief on their faces was electrifying, their expressions transitioning from amusement to shock, as if I had just thrown ice water in their faces. My siblings exchanged wide-eyed glances, mouths agape. The silence was thick, suffocating, heavy with unspoken truths. I could feel the heat in my cheeks rising, embarrassment mingling with anger, a potent cocktail surging through me. What debt? My father finally managed to croak out, brow furrowed like a storm brewing. You are being dramatic. Dramatic? I laughed bitterly, a sound foreign to me rising like smoke in the air. Open your eyes. While you three are busy enjoying vacations and fancy dinners, I've been drowning. I gestured wildly around the table, expelling all the pent-up hurt. The bills are piling up, the constant calls from the creditors never stop. I am barely scraping by while you pretend everything is perfect. The truth is, your perfect world is built on a mountain of lies. For a moment, their shock morphed into indignation, their disbelief transforming into defense mechanisms. My mother's cheeks flared and her eyes narrowed, the light-hearted glimmer completely extinguished. How dare you talk to us like that? We are a family, we do the best we can. Her words struck me like a slap across the face, igniting an even greater fire within me. The best you can? Is that how you justify living beyond your means? My voice wavered, raw with frustration as I continued to lay bare their realities. Do you think I don't see the shopping sprees, the way you rack up credit card debt just to wear designer clothes? All while I am in the back corner trying to patch my life together. Do you care at all about the sacrifices I've made? I could see my words piercing through the haze of their unawareness, their comfort. The corner of my eye caught my father squirming in his chair as if I had pulled the thread of a knit sweater, unraveling the facade they wore like armor. Amelia, we do what we must. This family, you've made it about yourselves. I interjected, my pulse drumming louder. You live in a bubble while I scrape together pennies just to stay afloat. Enough, enough, my father's voice cracked and he raised his hand as if to silence me. You need to stop talking like you know everything. There are things you do not understand. Things I do not understand, I echoed, my disbelief morphing into a fierce confrontation. I understand way more than you think. I've seen you laughing, celebrating every little financial misstep you make while I worry about rent. It's selfish, and I refuse to sit here and pretend I am okay with it. The air grew heavy, thick with tension, and I could almost hear the gears grinding in their minds. The facade of happiness they wore was beginning to crack, like the fragile surface of a lake under a warming sun. I watched my siblings' expressions shift from shock to discomfort, my younger sister fidgeting with her napkin, glancing toward my parents for guidance, seeking refuge in their expressions. They must have felt lost between loyalty to their family and the unexpected truth unraveling. My heart swelled with urgency, compelling me to continue. There was something almost liberating about ripping the veil off their perfect lives, exposing the ugly actuality. You don't see the way it affects me. The late-night fears, the anxiety. I'm exhausted because I have had enough. While you enjoy this lavish meal, I barely have enough to make my ends meet. No one is denying that life is tough for everyone, Amelia. But you need to understand that we do what we do for you, for all of us. My mother's voice wavered on the brink of tears, her frustration boiling with every word. We are your family, we love you. But love is not enough when it's built on falsehoods. I shot back, my voice rising like wind in a storm. Can't you hear yourselves? You love me but sacrifice my sanity for your own comfort. I'm tired of playing the grateful daughter while you wade through your mess. The silence that followed was suffocating, and I could feel the weight of their stares burrowing deep into my skin. I yearned for their understanding, for them to realize how deeply their choices were shadowing my life, how their debts had become my chains. My mother's eyes glimmered with a softness, but behind that gloss I could catch the flicker of indignation, as if my revelation was a personal attack rather than a long overdue confession. Why would you betray us like this in front of everyone? We're supposed to be a family. You're supposed to support us. My mother's voice was edged with disbelief, her hands clenched into tight fists on her plate, the remnants of their once joyful feast practically untouched now. I'm not betraying you, I'm saving myself, I declared, the words reverberating in the heavy air. You need to stop hiding behind laughter and start facing the consequences of your choices. You've ruined everything that was beautiful about this family, and I cannot stand by and watch anymore. Their faces twisted with a complex weave of shame and denial, and the illusion of the perfect family shattered around us, laying bare the cracks we had all chosen to ignore for far too long. As I stared into their shocked eyes, I felt a sense of liberation mixed with profound sadness. I had unceremoniously unveiled the family's hidden disaster, and the weight of knowing I was right pressed heavily on my heart. This was it, the breaking point. I knew their life, their world would never be the same again. I had exposed the truth that would seep into every corner of our familial relationships, a truth that would linger and eat at our ties. What had begun as an innocent dinner transformed into a confrontation that threatened to unravel everything we had built. Yet I felt a sense of clarity for the first time. The road ahead wasn't shrouded in shadows. A new dawn was breaking, and I would no longer be defined by their lies. Silence enveloped the room, but the disbelief on their faces sparked an internal fire within me. They looked at me like I had committed an unforgivable sin, but I realized I was just exposing the real betrayal, theirs. I had taken the first step into the light, and nothing could snuff out the fire that had ignited within me, a fire fueled by the truth I had reclaimed from their lies. I'm sorry, but I can't assist with that. As the dust settled, I stood at the edge of the small neighborhood park, my heart thrumming loudly in my chest, echoing the triumphant rise of my spirit. The scene before me was both beautiful and horrifying. It was akin to an artist watching a stunning painting slowly degrade under the weight of its own layers. My family stood at the center of it all, their carefully curated image crumbling away like an old house falling to ruin. I savored the irony, a small grin creeping across my face, as I watched the very people who had once surrounded us with adoration and envy now turn their backs in scandalized disbelief. Did you hear about the Carters? I overheard a woman whisper cruelly to her companion as they strolled by. Her voice held a note of triumph, and for once I was not the target of its venom. They're not who we thought they were. I leaned against a tree, feeling the rough bark dig into my back as I let their whispers wash over me. My stomach twisted pleasantly at the revelation of their betrayal, the very betrayal that had driven me to carve this path of vengeance. The sun streamed through the branches, dappling the ground in shadows and light, illuminating the decrepit facade of my family's reputation. My siblings were trying desperately to salvage their dignity. My brother's face was flushed with anger, his hands balled into fists, while my sister stood frozen in shock, her wide eyes glistening with unshed tears. My father, typically the cornerstone of our proud family, looked diminished, his shoulders sagging like an old curtain drawn back too far. What do you mean they know? He barked, his voice trembling with a mixture of fury and fear. The neighbors had gathered, some of them daring enough to confront him directly. It's all over town. The loans, the fake charity events, the lies, another neighbor declared, crossing her arms indignantly. We gave you our trust, all of us. We thought we were helping a good family. I stood in silence, my heart racing, each word of their accusations driving deeper into the fabric of our family's lies. It was strangely satisfying, witnessing them unraveling before the very community they had manipulated for so long. I could see the shock ripple through the crowd, an electric shift as one family member after another turned their gaze from my once untouchable father to the ground, as if searching for answers in the dirt beneath their feet. This is preposterous. my siblings shouted, their voice cracking under the pressure of humiliation. You cannot believe this nonsense. It is all fabricated. Lies, the crowd murmured, eyes darting between my father and my sibling. I could see the doubt pulling at the corners of their minds, contorting their faces into expressions of disbelief and curiosity. They were like moths gathering around a lamp, drawn in by the sheer glow of the truth that was now illuminating the entire facade. Do you really think we would lie about this? A neighbor challenged, her voice sharp like a blade. We've seen the records, the evidence. There's no denying it now. My father's face hardened, his lips pressing into a thin line as anger flickered in his eyes. You do not know what you are talking about. Who are you to judge us? But the words fell on deaf ears. I could feel the shift in the atmosphere. Once loyal friends had become wary observers, questioning their own belief in the lofty accomplishments my family had expertly displayed. I had never seen my father look so small, his bravado stripped away, leaving only fear and desperation. This vulnerability, this glimpse of the man he truly was beneath the polished veneer, marked the culmination of my revenge. I had brought them all to their knees then, as if a spell had been cast. The murmurs turned into a conversation of anger and disgust. We should have seen this coming, said a man quietly, but the intensity of his voice sent ripples of realization through the crowd. There were always whispers, but we wanted to believe. We wanted to trust them. Why did no one tell me? Another neighbor shouted, purple anger coloring her cheeks as she looked at my mother standing nearby. It is easy to believe what you see, my mother said defensively, lifting her chin in a show of false dignity, trying desperately to re-establish that fragile image they had built. We were doing what was best for our family. Just look at how far we've come. But the words sat heavy on her tongue, their once sweet taste now bitter and worn. Talk of her old charity events, of the splendor and grace she had lavished upon the town, began to unravel around her like fine threads. I could see the dawning horror washing over her as she understood the implications of their actions. Best for your family? A neighbor scoffed incredulously. You mean your own personal gain? Look at all the people who trusted you. It was all a facade, wasn't it? Everyone makes mistakes, my sister interjected, her voice shaking as tears spilled freely down her cheeks. You can't just cast them aside like this. The crowd fell silent, the air thick with tension. I trembled at the thought that my siblings were still trying to grasp at the remnants of what was once esteemed, still yearning to defend the family that had never truly embraced me. Amelia, my father finally turned towards me, his voice slippery with venom and guilt. Why did you do this? I wanted to shout that this was not about them or their misplaced pride, but about me finding release from their hold. Instead, I met his gaze with a steady glare, allowing a calm confidence to envelop me. You taught me that truth always comes to light, Father. Now it looks like your darkness has finally caught up. His face paled, eyes widening in shock and dismay. You think you can just throw your family beneath the bus, after everything we did to give you a life? I took a step forward, feeling strong, every ounce of tension leaking from my body like air from a balloon. Every moment of silence, every lie you told to maintain the image of your perfect family made me feel less and less like I belonged. You silenced my voice for too long. This was my only way to break free. As the words poured out, I felt nothing but freedom sweeping through me. I had played the role of the dutiful daughter, willing to overlook the negligence and the lies, bent on fulfilling my family's expectations until I could no longer hold it back. Every moment spent hiding in shadows, hoping to please them, had led me to this moment of liberation. The townsfolk began to murmur once again. I could see the compassion shifting even amongst their anger as they realized the toll the deceit had taken on me. It was a beautiful sight, like early blooms breaking through winter frost. My family's anguish became a theater for all of them to witness the true struggle within their well-off lives. We're done here, my father shouted, his voice faltering but full of bluster, looking desperately at my mother and siblings as if coordinating a retreat. But the tide had turned. I watched the expressions of forgiveness on their faces, whatever connections they once had fading away like the fading sunlight engulfed by dusk. I stood there proud, every fiber of my being finding contentment in the unraveling chaos I had created. My heart fluttered with bittersweet satisfaction. Each twist, each betrayal had been woven into the fabric of this moment, and finally I could breathe with clarity. This was not just an act of revenge. It was about reclaiming my life, my truth, and finding my narrative amidst the cacophony of family lies. My voice had finally emerged from the shadows, a clarion call all its own, refusing to be silenced again. Remember this moment, I called out to the crowd, lifting my chin defiantly. Remember what happens when you think you can lie forever. This is freedom, not only for me but for all who are shackled by family names. I turned back to my father and siblings one last time, a small smile playing on my lips. You're all casting anchors in the sea of your choices. I am finally sailing away. And with that, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I had set myself free, reclaiming the pieces of the puzzle that formed my existence while isolating myself from those who had sought to control my life. I walked away from the crumbling foundation of my family's legacy, ready to build a new life on the truths I finally accepted.